Welcome to Wild Spirits Outdoors, the place for real hunting talk, tactics, and a few laughs. Now let's dive in with your host, Brad John.
Hey guys and gals, welcome back to Wild Spirits Outdoors. If you're listening on the day of the drop, today is Tuesday, November 4th. Episode 12 is being recorded morning of Monday, November 3rd. We're right in the thick of it. It's getting active out there. Definitely a lot of daytime movement. We've had some great temperatures, good cold front here where I'm at, and it's definitely picking activity up. I said last week, this time of year can be feast or famine. Well, I got to experience a little bit of both just over the weekend. Friday night, Saturday, a lot of good movement, a lot of good activity. Sunday, it was like the deer just up and vanished, and that's just how it goes this time of year. Does are getting chased, bucks are cruising. So if you're not where the action is, you're just not seeing deer. But it can change again in the blink of an eye. So just got to stay at it. Trust your spots, stick with it, and good things are coming. So a little bit about how my weekend went. I hunted my property Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Got to see some good buck activity Friday night. Some chasing activity Saturday. Weather was great. Had a little bit of rain, nothing crazy. Yesterday, winds switched. We had a very, very strong wind yesterday coming out of I want to say it was coming out of the southwest, but where I was at, it was all directions south. I was getting almost a straight west wind, rotating around to straight southeast. It was all over the place, and that can also have an impact on what you're seeing as far as deer activity. That wind was just so inconsistent, and it was gusting very strong. I think we had gusts up into the high teens. And this morning, Monday, November 3rd, I was actually going to go hunting, but we had a lot of rain come in and very, very strong winds. I had some stuff I had to get done for work, and I also wanted to get the episode recorded because I spent my entire weekend hunting. So figured I'd sleep in this morning, get my work stuff done, uh, get everything ready to record today so that I can drop the episode, and I will go out and hunt basically the late morning through the rest of the day today. So, and then I will be hunting again tomorrow before I take off for some more work travel. So, I hope everybody's enjoying their rutcation if they're on it. Some people are going to be starting it this week, so just enjoy it, have fun. Just remember, it can change really quickly. It can go from hot action to nothing, or it can go from nothing to hot action very, very quickly. So have fun with it, guys. That's my take on that. Um, Real quick, I finally have my first shirt prototype, so I want to show this off. It's nothing fancy, but it's got the Wild Spirits Outdoors logo on the front, and then on the back. I mean, nothing says a wild spirit more than a shirtless Sasquatch drinking bourbon, smoking a cigar, wearing an American flag bandana, and just rocking it out. And he's rocking some camel pants too. So this is just one of my ideas. I've got more coming, but I wanted to show this one off. I got my initial prints in. Like I said on last episode, I was traveling for work, so I was unable to do anything with it. But I quick threw a shirt together just to see how it looked, and we'll keep making some more from there as my additional designs come in. So I will put some better pictures out on social media. If you guys are interested, shoot me a message, and I'll see about maybe getting some pre-orders set up on the shirts. I'll put some pricing and things together as well. Again, this is just to go back into funding the podcast, maybe some microphone upgrades like I talked about last week, and just keep it trucking from there. So this is going to be an interesting episode, and we'll see how it goes. We'll see how the responses to it go, but it could be a little controversial for some people, and that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions. That's the beauty of the country that we live in. But I want to talk about some things. I was going to kind of continue on from last week's conversation, discussing more of the breeding side of the rut, um, what triggers that, so on and so forth. But, everybody's talking about that right now. And really, it's just being in the woods and riding it out and waiting for your opportunity to come. Obviously, there's more to it than that, but everybody's talking about it. We all know last week of October through the second week of November here, particularly in the Midwest, is a magical time to be in the woods. So just get in there, get after it, take some of the stuff we talked about the last two episodes, and run with it. So this week, instead of talking more on the breeding and the rut and things such as that, I wanted to talk about a handful of different topics. And again, these might be a little bit controversial. They might upset some people, and that's okay. I embrace any comments that come back on this, whether for it or against it. These are my opinions. Opinions are like honey holes and hiney holes. Everybody has one. So these are mine. And if you're not interested in these takes, or you don't agree with them, again, I I welcome the comments. I welcome the discussion because I'm seeing things, and this isn't just like it's just starting to happen. I've been seeing this stuff for several years now, and over this weekend, seeing some of the stuff posted on social media, and just hearing some of the comments in general, some of the stuff that the politicians here in Michigan tried to pull late last week got me thinking about a lot of this stuff. So we're just going to talk about it. I've got a bunch of show notes here. This stuff is in no particular order. Um, but again, this is going to be a twist from strategy and hunt and talk. And we're going to talk a little bit more. A lot of this relates to the state of Michigan, but a lot of it can also be extrapolated to other regions as well. Um, just the current state of deer management, hunting culture, policies that are shaping or deforming in certain instances uh, the hunting traditions that we all love. I'm not gonna sugarcoat my opinions. I don't like to sit the fence. I don't like to walk down the middle of the road. Pick a side. If you walk down the middle, you're gonna get hit. So these are my takes, and I welcome comments to these, and I hope we can have a discussion because I think it's having discussions and not just uh, pointing fingers at one another. It's actually having discussions and figuring out how we can. We all love to hunt, so what can we do to ensure this tradition is there for future generations and ensure future generations still have that same passion for the outdoors that I grew up with. So, again, no particular order to these. I'm just going to jump into them, and we'll see where it takes us. And who knows, maybe I'll end up on a tangent or two along the way. So, going to take a drink of coffee here, and we'll get into it. Okay, the first topic that I have on my list here is pertains to the Lower Peninsula of Michigan, and it's the baiting ban that was implemented several years back. Um, I don't hunt over bait. I don't bait deer anymore because it is illegal in the Lower Peninsula. I didn't hunt over bait before it became illegal or it was banned in the Lower Peninsula for many many years. Um, and I have nothing against people hunting over bait. I think the baiting ban is ridiculous. I think there's no science to back it up. Everything that they do is in the name of CWD and disease control, and it's bullshit. I mean, I'm just gonna say how I feel about it. They talk about nose to nose contact of these deer, blah 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 blah. Um, I watch deer lick each other's asses. I watch deer lick each other's faces. I watch deer lick and rub on the same licking branches. That's how they live. Everything they do is done through their noses. They interact through their mouths and their noses and the glands on their faces and the glands on their hooves that are in their hooves and on their tarsal glands that secrete chemicals and secrete scent, and they use their faces and their noses and their glands to identify said scents. So to sit there and say that if somebody throws a 50-pound bag of corn on the ground, it's going to potentially spread disease is ridiculous. It's just it makes zero sense. It makes absolutely no sense, and I think it's stupid. And you'll have them say we're banning baiting because of that, and then they'll turn around in the next breath and they'll say that we have overpopulation of deer here in the state of Michigan and something needs to be done about it. And let's make more liberal hunting licenses and let's extend seasons and let's open traditional muzzle loading seasons up to all firearms and let's open archery season to crossbows and let's create an early antlerless season and let's create a youth season. And we'll get into a lot of these other topics that I'm bringing up right now, but this is just how incompetent some of these discussions that they have are. If you want to reduce deer populations in certain areas, then let people put bait out and start smacking does that are coming into the bait. That's not complicated. If you're going to take that away from people, but you're going to let somebody put a quarter acre food plot in, what the hell difference does that make? It makes no sense whatsoever. I think it's hypocritical. I think it's talking out both sides of their faces. And to me, I think it makes absolutely no sense. I think baiting should be legal. I think there should be a limit on the amount of bait you can put out. Um, I don't think people need to go out and put, a truckload of corn on the ground. I think that would be stupid to do anyway because it's going to rot well before the deer get it finished off anyway. But um, I think the baiting ban needs to go away, especially if you're going to say we have an overpopulation of deer. I think if you regulate the baiting properly, don't just make it a free for all. Put limits on it like there used to be. I think it used to be a 5 gallon volume of bait or 2 5 gallon, volume of bait. I can't remember exactly what it was, but it's not going to hurt the deer. It's not going to have a detrimental effect on the deer population. Uh, I just think it's an asinine argument to do it all in the name of CWD, which, by the way, CWD research brings in millions and millions of dollars to certain organizations to study said disease. And I have yet to find a single source confirming a wild dead deer found dead from CWD. Anytime I hear of a CWD positive dead deer, it's a deer that was hit by a car or it's a deer that a hunter shot and had tested for CWD and it turned up positive for CWD. I've yet to see. If you can find me a good source, I'd be happy to read into it, and I will say I'm wrong if I'm wrong. But if you can find me a single source in the state of Michigan, or really anywhere in the Midwest, citing a confirmed deer that died of CWD, I'll eat my own words if you can find me that. But I'm not going to say that it makes a major difference because if CWD was that dangerous and it was that prevalent as they claim it is, then I don't think we would have an overpopulation of deer in the state of Michigan like they claim we do. So that's kind of where I'm at on the baiting ban. I If it was legalized tomorrow, I still wouldn't bait. I just don't want to hunt over bait. But I'll tell you, as a 13, 14, 15-year-old kid, when I was getting into hunting, I wouldn't have even seen a deer had it not been for the bait. And if I would have seen them, I'd have spooked them well before I got a chance to shoot them. So, um, as I've evolved as a hunter, it's obviously I can be more stealthy. I am much more understanding of wind and what that does and how it can affect deer getting spooked. But a kid sitting there trying to hunt, or somebody who doesn't hunt often, or somebody who only is able to get out a couple of times a year, let them put some stinking bait out and shoot a deer. It's What sense does it make to prevent them from doing that and then complain that there's too many deer? That's topic one. Again, these are in no order. I was just thinking about them and writing them down. Next on my list, and this one also pertains to more so the state of Michigan than anything, but I don't know all the regs to all the different seasons in all the surrounding Midwest states. I'm sure a lot of them are similar, but uh, the NRC is who writes the regulations and seasons for the state of Michigan in coordination with the Michigan DNR. They've gone bananas over the past decade with seasons. I mean, there's so many freaking season dates. It's unreal. When I started out hunting in '95, you had archery season, you had firearm season, you had muzzleloader season. During archery season, you could use a stinking bow. During firearm season, you could use a firearm or a bow, and you had to wear hunter's orange. During muzzleloader season, you could use a bow or a muzzleloader, and you had to wear orange. Pretty freaking simple, pretty easy to follow, not that confusing. Now, here in the state of Michigan, you've got an early antlerless only any weapon season. You've got a youth season. You've got a disabled veterans season. I have nothing against a disabled veterans season. I want to put that caveat out there right now. I think that's a fantastic idea, but why can't it just be for the veterans? Why does it have to be opened up to youth and everything else? Um, After that, you've got archery season, and I'm going to caveat off from this, and we'll probably get into it again in a little bit. I am not a pro crossbow guy during archery season. Many people aren't going to like that. People will say, well, crossbows have been around just as long as bows have, and yeah, they have, but it's not what the intent of archery season was. Archery season's intent was you drew a bow back and you shot an arrow at an animal. That was what archery season was. The traditional guys can say compounds came around and that completely changed archery season. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that compounds aren't a massive improvement over consistency and easeability of shooting than was a longbow or a recurve. But you still have to draw it back, you still have to hold it, you still have to aim, you still have to release. And that is all done unassisted by anything to use that's actually anchoring your gun to a shooting rail or a crossbow to a shooting rail or to a tripod. And the majority of archery hunters that I know that use a vertical bow, whether it's a longbow, a recurve, or a compound, the ones that are serious about archery season aren't taking stupid, unethical shots at deer. Now, there's always an exception to that rule, and there's people out there that make stupid shots. I'm not saying people that wound deer. I'm saying people that make stupid shots. If you take a 30-yard shot with a compound bow and you're practiced at it and you understand the situation and you understand what the wind is doing and you understand how the deer is acting and you make that shot, that is an ethical shot. Now, conversely, you take a crossbow that shoots 450 feet per second sitting on a tripod and you shoot 70, 80, 90, 100, 110 yards at a deer with a 3 power scope on that thing. Where is that in archery? That is not archery hunting. And it's a stupid shot. I don't care if your crossbow shoots 450 feet per second or not. To sit there and launch arrows that far at deer is stupid. A bullet traveling 2,000 feet per second, taking a 100-yard shot is one thing. An arrow traveling 450 feet per second, shooting 100 yards. If you do the math there, and let's just say it travels 450 from the point of release all the way to the deer, which it doesn't, it slows down as it goes. But let's just say 100 yards is 300 feet, 450 feet per second. That means it's taking just shy of a full second for that arrow or that bolt to leave that crossbow to get to that animal. A second, 1/1000. That's a second. That's a long time for something to be in the air and have something stand perfectly still and not move. I've seen deer jump arrows shot out of compounds that are shooting 280 feet per second and drop 24 inches from a 20-yard shot. So to sit there and take crossbow shots like that is irresponsible and it's unethical and it's not archery hunting. To shoot a compound bow 40 yards is pushing it for me. I mean, it's got to be like the perfect situation. Everything's got to be perfect for that. And at 40 yards, a lot can happen. Most archery hunters, myself included, that I know to this day, even with the advancements in compound bows, are looking at 20-yard shots. We know we can shoot farther. We know we're accurate farther, but we know what deer can do in that time frame, and they can move a lot. And things will still happen. I don't care if it's 10 yards. Things can happen. Deer can get shot, they can get injured. Doesn't matter if it's a longbow, recurve, compound, crossbow, gun, you name it, things can happen. I'm not talking about that. I'm just talking about the the ethical and the responsible things to do as hunters. Now, to I say all that to say I'm not an anti-crossbow person. I have no problem with people using crossbows. I just don't think that it should be used during archery season. And if you're going to create a million seasons anyway, then carve out a section of October, maybe a 2 week, or maybe the whole month of October, and say from October 1st to October 31st, crossbows can be used from archery season. After that, it's vertical bow only. I would love to see that. And one thing I want to say about this, when it comes to the crossbow crowd, again, I don't want people to think if you tell me you use a crossbow that I don't like you or I don't like the way you hunt. It's legal. You're allowed to use it if you want to. What I will say is if tomorrow they said archery season, you can no longer use crossbows, you can no longer use a compound, you have to use a recurve bow or a longbow, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I'll miss shooting my compound. I'll go get a freaking longbow or a recurve. I love to archery hunt. It's a passion of mine. I'm going to make time, if that's what I'm passionate about, to learn how to use the equipment that I can use to go hunting during archery season. Conversely, and this might not be the same for everybody, but the people that hunt with crossbows, which, by the way, weren't allowed to be used until fairly recently. I don't know exactly when it happened, 10, 15 years ago, maybe, is when they introduced them into the archery season here in Michigan. A good majority of those people will lose their ever loving minds if they came out tomorrow and said crossbows and compounds are no longer considered valid forms of archery equipment. Now, back to the another point on the crossbows. If you are disabled or if you are over the age of, say, 60 years old, I have no issue with that being a valid form of using a crossbow during hunting season. Back when I was younger, to use a crossbow, you had to have a verified disability from a doctor saying you had a bum shoulder or a wrecked back or something that prevented you from being able to draw a conventional bow and arrow back. I would like to take that farther and say if you're over the age of 60, our bodies wear out. Um, so I'm not anti crossbow. I don't like the excuses that I hear. I hear people say, well, I don't have time to practice. That's why I use a crossbow. I call BS on that. Your life is no more busy than anybody else's life is. If you're passionate about something and you want to do something, you will make time for it. Um, this might be a controversial one, and it might really piss a lot of people off, but that's just the way I feel about it. If tomorrow they said crossbows were illegal, it's not going to hurt my feelings. If tomorrow they said I couldn't use a compound bow anymore, it's not going to hurt my feelings. I'll learn how to use my longbow better, and my hunting's just going to get that much more intense because everything's going to get even closer to me. So that's my take on the crossbows. Let's see here. What's my next topic I've got? Oh, these are going to get people. These are going to get people fired up. I already know it, but that's all right. Hopefully, it doesn't end my podcast only at episode 12 because people get so mad they quit listening. uh, Deer management in general in Michigan is it's a disaster. It's the the regulations they put in place to manage deer quality that are done by the NRC and the DNR. 90% of it just it makes no sense. It makes no sense at all. Um, Michigan's broken down basically into a zone one, zone two, and zone three. Then you have deer management units within those zones. But when it comes to deer management, big picture in the state of Michigan, instead of taking a pen and carving out deer management the way it needs to be done, they take a paint roller and they just swath huge areas of the state and say, this area is going to be managed this way. This area, your regulations are this, and in this area your regulations are that. That doesn't work. Um, the state is way too fragmented. The parcels are too small. It needs to be handled on a county by county basis. Ohio's not perfect, but I use Ohio as a good example. County by county, there's regulations on doe quotas. There's um, every county's a $1 state, and then beyond that, there's doe quotas. Um, it's not perfect, but it's way better than what we're doing here in Michigan. This broad stroke approach that we're using doesn't work. The UP is a completely different hunting animal than is the northern lower peninsula. The western half of the UP is a completely different animal than the eastern half of the UP. It can't be done by just taking these broad strokes and saying, okay, this entire mass of land that we call the Upper Peninsula, these are your rules. And then from basically the middle of the state to the bridge, these are essentially your rules. And then below that, these are your rules. It's got to be broken down and it's got to be done on a county by county basis. I mean, if you really want to get down into the nitty gritty, county by county, things can change tremendously. And I'm not saying we got to sit there and break this down by township, but it does need to be thought about, at least at a county by county basis. Um, I'm not a deer expert. I'm not a biologist. I have a lot of years experience hunting deer all over the state and other states, and I've been able to see what works, what doesn't work. And again, these are my opinions and things that I, in a perfect world, would like to see done. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but I would love to see the state of Michigan break its regulations down county by county. My property in Newaygo County, Michigan, very, very low deer numbers. I don't have a huge chunk of land. I got 60 acres, but the deer numbers on that 60 acres are extremely low. And I've said this, I believe, before on previous podcasts. I have yet to shoot a doe off my own 60 acres because I don't see does. I've got any given year, I basically have two separate family groups of does. I have a breeding age female that gives birth typically to two fawns, sometimes three fawns. You would think if the deer numbers were exploding, that in 7 years or 8 years now, with me not shooting does, I would have, let's just make the math easy. One adult breeding doe gives birth to two. I have two adult breeding does on my property in 2017. I now have four fawns, two adult does. Take out the early rut or early breeding, take out this year's fawns that will come into heat their first year. Let's just take that out of the consideration. And let's say the following year, I now have two adult breeding age does, and I have four last year's fawns that are now breeding age. That is two, four, six deer. Let's say half of them are does. So, I mean, we don't have to get this broken down. I guess I'll just say they're all does to make the math easy. It's not accurate, but it kind of gives you an idea of what I'm saying. Now I have six deer. Now, I guess yeah. Let's break it down and say half of the fawns are does, half are bucks. So I have four does now. That year they all get bred and they all give birth. Do you see where I'm going with this? Numbers keep increasing. If the numbers are so out of whack, why is it in 8 years I still see virtually the exact same amount of does that I saw 8 years ago? It doesn't make sense. Predation, hunters harvesting deer in the area that I'm at. Um, Nuevo County is not a wealthy county. There are people in this county that have to hunt to supplement food, and I have no problem with that. I mean, that's the most noble cause of hunting is to put food on the table for your family. So no issue with that whatsoever. But the numbers of deer in Nuevo County, where my property is, are not even the same as they are in southern Nuevo County. There's much more larger tracts of wooded land, much more places for the deer to go. Now you get into southern Nuevo County where there's a bunch of agriculture and you just have smaller pockets of woods. Everybody thinks the deer numbers are out of control because there's deer everywhere and there's deer getting hit. Well, no, the deer numbers for that area might be out of whack, but it's because the deer have nowhere to go. You have smaller tracts of woods. Every year there's chunks of woods that are being cleared out to create farmland, and you also have large expanses of woods that are being opened up to, they're being sold to developers and they're putting subdivisions in and things such as that. In areas like that, deer numbers are going to get visibly more out of whack. And if you're going to try to prevent car deer accidents and crop damage and things like that in those areas, then yes, you have to increase your doe harvest to help offset that. Let's see, where was that? Um, Sorry, I'm kind of getting off track because I am going on some tangents. But essentially, what I'm saying about this is the regulations need to be driven by the data for localized areas, at least county by county. If we could at least do county by county, it would make things a lot better. I would take it if they adjusted uh, deer seasons and limits and things like that by a county-wide basis. Um, a tough one for me is, and I would be for it. I wouldn't be mad if they did it. You know, Ohio, like I said, that's a $1 state. If Michigan went to a $1 state, I'd be fine with it. It would suck a little bit on my own personal property. I'm only going to harvest $1 a season, but I do travel. And Michigan is a huge state, so it would be awesome to still have that opportunity to go chase a buck in another area. But I can also go, if it's a $1 state, I can target a buck whether it's on my property or anywhere else that I go hunting, and I can still go target does. And we're going to get into the doe thing again here in a little bit. Actually, right now, because it's my next topic. Um, so October 30th of this year, a group of lawmakers late on the 30th pushed through House Resolution 202. They sent it to committee. It's not a House bill, it was a House resolution. A little bit different. Basically, like I said earlier, the NRC, in conjunction with the DNR, is who sets the regulations and the seasons, etc., for the state of Michigan. This House resolution that went to committee um, was designed to urge the NRC to make a snap decision, literally 48 hours notice, to take the Michigan firearms season that opens every year on November 15th and move it forward to November 1st. 48 hours notice. Let's move an entire season with people that are using firearms to harvest deer. Let's move it 2 weeks early on zero notice. Now, thankfully, this got squashed and it didn't come to fruition, but it got me thinking, and I posted a thing on Facebook, and I wanted people to be aware of it because I think this kind of stuff happens probably more often than we even realize. And when I heard about it, I couldn't believe that it would even. This just tells me that these people that are writing these resolutions don't understand hunting at all. Could you imagine being being a bow hunter, state of Michigan? You're looking forward to November 1st, right? Halloween. It's that magical time. All of us bow hunters get super excited to be in the woods. Action's picking up, et cetera, et cetera. Now, let's say, like me, you took Halloween off and you were going to hunt Halloween the 1st, the 2nd, the 3rd, and the 4th. And you're hunting hard, daylight to dark. How many bow hunters do you think had no clue that that resolution was even introduced? How many bow hunters do you think would, had that been passed by the NRC and they moved gun season 2 weeks early, how many bow hunters do you think would have gotten the shock of their lives when they're climbing in their tree on November 1st to hunt deer, and all of a sudden there's rifles popping off all around them because people are gun hunting? That's insane. That tells me that the people that write these resolutions or want to push these bills have no idea what the hell they're doing. That creates an absolutely insane, dangerous, asinine, stupid recipe for disaster to try to push through a resolution to change gun season on October 30th and want it to be enacted 2 days later. Not even on October 30th. This was like late October 30th. So let's basically just say on Halloween they tried to get the NRC to change the rules to open gun season the next day. Tell me you don't hunt without telling me you don't hunt. That's just stupid. Um, Now, getting off from that, and the reason that I wanted to bring this up as part of my rant that I'm going on here, I guess, is when I posted that on social media, I said, "Hey, I don't know who's aware of this. I just heard about it, and I didn't hear about it till like midday on Halloween." A buddy of mine had messaged me, and he's like, "Hey, did you see this House resolution that they sent to committee?" And then I started reading on it, and I couldn't believe it. So I posted a thing on social media about it and said, "Hey, as an archery hunter, I don't support this. Here's the email for the NRC. Here's the email to the committee that it went to. Here's how you find your state representative." I posted all those links and said, if you're against this, please, send them an email, call them, and tell them no. Now, I knew, as did most people, the odds of that getting pushed through that quickly were slim to none. But you never know. I mean, we live in some bizarro times where just dumb things can be done. So I did want to get it out there. Now, some of the comments on my post truly astounded me. The amount of people that claim to be hunters or sportsmen that were like excited for it and cheering it on. Like, really? 24 hours notice, you want a bunch of people to be allowed to bring guns in when people are anticipating it being bow season, and you don't see a problem with that? You don't see a problem with what it would do to the deer herd if they moved gun season 2 weeks earlier? Now, this was only supposedly a temporary resolution for this year because of the government shutdown and SNAP benefits and giving people access to meat and being able to donate meat, blah, 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 blah. To me, that's all BS. Hunters donate a ton of meat. If SNAP benefits do end for those that truly need them, I know community members are going to step up and help people that need it. Now, if you want to look at it from a completely blind eye and say it was a noble idea, fine. It was a noble but stupid idea. I'll put it that way. But again, getting back to the comments, um, you know, I looked at some of these comments and then I went and I looked at where some of the people that were making these comments were, you know, what school they went to or where they live. Some people have that on their social media profiles, like on Facebook. A lot of these comments were coming from people that live in the southern third of the lower peninsula. And they're cheering it on. Oh, we've got too many deer. We need this. This is great. If you're going to gut one, you might as well gut 10. Well, you can already do that on November 15th. You can get as many freaking doe tags as you want. Where I'm taking this is, and if you live in southern Michigan and you have a deer overpopulation problem that you can't get under control, there's plenty of us that are more than willing to come hunt your land for you. So if you need it done, and I'm dead serious when I say this, if you've got property and you know you can't get the does under control or you have way too many deer, you think, tell me when. I'll come down there on the weekends and I'll help you out with that, and I will donate every single one of them to ensure that people have some good quality meat to eat. Um, what I suspect is, how do I say this without? I don't want this to sound like it's a broad stroke and I'm encompassing everybody, but I will say that in my opinion, there's a lot of people that are complaining about excessive deer numbers, and I'll bet dollars to donuts a good majority of those people complaining about it aren't doing a damn thing about it because they want to shoot a trophy buck. So they don't want to spook deer off by shooting a doe during gun season. They want to wait until that trophy buck comes. And then the temperatures get cold. And then they're like, I already got my buck. I really don't want to go sit in this cold to shoot a doe. Or I'd rather watch the football game than go out and hunt. So the does get deprioritized. So here's my hot take on that. For people that live in areas of Michigan where the numbers are out of whack and there's way too many deer, which I'm not arguing that there's not. I see it. I travel all over the state of Michigan, all over the Midwest, all over the country really for work. But in the areas with deer, I pay very, very close attention. I'm a guy who, when I'm driving down the road, going between, client visits and things like that, I see how many deer are on the sides of the highways. I see how many deer are in the fields in the mornings and in the fields in the evenings. I see areas where there's 100 deer out in an ag field, and then there's a strip of timber, and you get to the next ag field, and there's 50 deer. I see all that. So I'm not saying there's not areas of overpopulation. I'm saying do something about it because I'm telling you right now, I think a lot of people that complain about it aren't doing what they could be doing about it. And I'm not going to say that's all their fault. In these overpopulated areas, why do people need to pay $20 a doe tag? If it's that bad, as the NRC claims it is, and harvest numbers are down so much, then why are they being charged at all for a doe tag? If you're saying the numbers are dangerously out of control and it needs to be thinned out, why are you charging people for a doe tag? And if it's that bad, why aren't you creating earn a buck zones where if you want to go shoot that trophy buck, first you got to shoot a doe or two does, however you want to do it. These are things that I think about as a conservationist and an avid hunter who sees this stuff, and to me, it just does not make any sense. Another topic that comes to mind when I think about the overpopulated areas. Let me take a drink real quick. Uh, Particularly in you know around some of the larger cities and things like that. This can include it doesn't just have to be southern Michigan. Really anywhere where there's a larger city. Anytime you have a larger city, obviously you get urban sprawl as the population of people increases. Inevitably, more houses get built, things get bigger. You end up with you know you have the town proper. Let's take like Grand Rapids, for example, where you've got Grand Rapids, and then it just keeps sprawling out from there to where now, almost from Sparta, Michigan, to Rockford, to Belding, to Plainfield, to let's see what's next. Maybe I'm saying these backwards, but like Wyoming, Granville, uh, Coopersville, like that. It's a huge mass where it just keeps sprawling out. Um, that shrinks hunting opportunity. It shrinks available property for people to hunt, which creates access losses, which creates less people being able to hunt those areas. So if you've got, you know, a farm around the edges of that urban sprawl, and let's say, say you got a 100-acre farm, and it's, two people that are allowed to hunt that property. And let's say they are doing what they consider to be, you know, deer management. Maybe they're taking two, three, four does for every buck they harvest. That's not going to get it done. It's not gonna. It's not gonna. It's not gonna reduce those deer numbers to a satisfactory, healthy herd population. If only a couple people are able to hunt these tracts of land to get this stuff done. So um, I'm a proponent of opening certain city parks for certain time frames of the year to archery only. Um, this is another situation where maybe it wouldn't be such a big deal to have crossbows available, where you can come into these certain zones of city-owned property or township-owned property that are closed to hunting and close them to the public for 2 weeks or for 2 weekends, maybe Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then people can go back in there and then Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday again. Do something, open these up so that people can go in and harvest deer. That's going to be what gets it done. People need to have access to this stuff if you want them to do something about it. We don't need to spend government money hiring sharpshooters to go in and take out deer on these city and township parks. Open them up to hunters. You want to increase your hunter revenue? Well, open more places for the hunters to go hunt, especially around these urban areas where the sprawl is really limiting access down. the ripple effect that these no hunting zones creates on the deer population, I don't think is truly being thought about. Um, if you've got a virtually a very very populated area with a really nice large acreage county park in it that's not open to public, well, guess where the majority of the deer are going to be? They're going to be not right in somebody's, multiplex that they live in. They're going to congregate and they're going to spend the majority of their time in that park, and they're going to, traverse between that park and the next wooded area they can get to. Open those up to public if you want, the public to assist in getting these numbers down, and you want to get hunter retention back up. Open places up for people to hunt. Farmers, crop damage, things such as that. Now, I'm gonna. This is an assumption that I'm making, and I'm gonna do something right now to see if I'm fairly close in my thought. I'm gonna open up Onyx. Bear with me here, and I'm gonna zoom out from my location. And let's get down. Let's see. There's a lot of farmland down in this area. So on Onyx, I can turn layers on. Most of you know this, where I can see, state land, national forest land. I can also find commercial forest land that is open to public hunting, and I can find what's called HAP here in the state of Michigan, hunter access programs. So I don't know where I'm at right now. I'm just picking like an area. I'm over by Lowell. There's a lot of farms around Lowell, and I'm zooming in. And let me see here. I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but I'm going to look at a fairly large area. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I basically just covered 12 square miles, and I found one small chunk of Department of Natural Resources land, which I would have to verify that that is even open to public hunting, because not all of it is, and it's a very small chunk. Let's see how many acres that is, just out of curiosity. It's 30 acres. And then I'll zoom back out again, and here's a county park that is 305 acres. And I will bet you money that that county park is not open to public hunting. Be very surprised if it was. And here's a big chunk of township land, 120 acres. Very likely that that is also closed to public hunting. And what I was looking for in that 12 square mile area is hunter access programs. And I found 1, 2, for a total of 76 acres and 70 acres. So we'll just make it easy math. 150 acres in a 12 square mile area of private land that is mostly farmland that is opened up to hunter access. So if you're a farmer and you're complaining about crop damage and there's too many deer, if you want that addressed, look at opening your properties up to hunter access programs. But, and this isn't, again, this isn't everybody, this is just pure speculation on my part. I could be wrong. The majority of those properties that have huntable land, not just wide open tillage, but do have land on them, are either hunted by, friends and family of the farmer, which is fine. Make sure you're taking the does that you need to take, or it's being leased to somebody for hunting rights. If you're going to lease property for hunting rights because you're a hunter and you need, deer population taken, addressed, make rules on people that are going to lease your land that they have to take X amount of does a season before they can even shoot a buck, and enforce those rules. Make sure they're staying by it. This isn't I'm blaming farmers and saying you guys are just bitching about, crop damage, but you're not doing anything about it. I'm just throwing some ideas out there. 12 square miles in primarily ag land, and I found 150 acres total on 2 separate properties of hunter access program, and I found several hundred acres of county park that is very, very likely. I would have to confirm this, but just looking at the properties, I'm guessing very highly they're not open to public hunting. Um, that's got to be opened up to hunters. If you got no place to hunt and you got to drive, you know, an hour away from where you live just to get on a tiny chunk of public land, but there's five other people hunting, you're not going to get fired up about hunting. We need to open those accesses up, incentivize hunter access programs, take some of the proceeds from the money that hunters spend on licenses, create grants to open these properties up so that people can hunt them. So to me, that's not chess; it's checkers. We talked about it a little bit, but leaseholders, if you're hunting a lease, if you have a lease, I have no problem with leases at all. Um, you know, if I didn't have my own property to hunt, and it's not great property, my property is not phenomenal. I just talked about how few deer I have up there. It's mine. I love it, and I want to try to make it better and improve the habitat. So I spend a lot of time and a lot of money on my tiny little 60 acres to make it the best I can possibly make it for the wildlife. So I can completely understand that when it comes to hunting leases. If you're going to lease property, don't just go out there and target, the biggest buck you can find. Look at the lease, look at the deer, make sure you're doing things that are going to benefit the deer overall, not just benefit your trophy wall. I've shot, for every buck I've shot over the years, I've shot 10, 12 does. I don't have a ton of bucks on my wall. I've been blessed to harvest, a good handful of nice bucks, but I've also harvested a lot of does um, over my hunting lifetime. I talked about this already, but again, the one size fits all or this paint roller mentality when it comes to hunting regs, it's got to be addressed here in Michigan. We got to look at things. I think there is a very realistic case for uh, county specific rules, county specific harvests, and things such as that. I think if we do that properly and actually get input from the people that hunt those counties when it comes to making these decisions and not just giving it to a board of the Natural Resources Commission to meet in Lansing once a month or once every couple months and make their decisions on what they want to do for Ontonagon County up in the freaking Upper Peninsula. They don't know. They're not up there. Let the county. I guarantee the majority of counties. And here's another way to look at it: put an offer out there to appoint, you know, county by county councils for the NRC, completely voluntary, completely unpaid positions. They're voluntary. You're gonna find out real quick just how serious hunters are about conservation. Because I'll tell you right now, if Newaygo County put out an announcement and said, big news out of the NRC. Newaygo County is going to have its own chapter of the NRC, and the Newaygo County NRC chapter is going to set regulations for Newaygo County. I don't need to be paid for it. I am signing up for it. And I'm not signing up for it and making all the rules the way I want them. There's things that I want changed that would be way down the line from what I want to focus on. I think you would find very quickly the areas where people are serious about it. And if nobody signs up for them, then obviously they don't care that much, and they can be handled with a paintbrush. So that was my rant. Uh, there's other topics I could go into, but these were just the ones that were on my mind. Let me think here. Is there anything else? Yes, there is one more topic, and this one it kind of came to me based on a couple comments I got from buddies over the weekend. They're excited to be out in the woods hunting. It's that time of year for us, right? And next thing they know, they're either hunting and somebody just comes trespassing on a private land for no apparent reason, you know, walking their dogs or whatever they're doing. And I had a couple different buddies say this to me, and it's frustrating. And I'm not saying this to like pick on people. Oftentimes trespassing is innocent, but it might be innocent, but it doesn't mean that it's okay. And I also see a lot of comments when people say something on social media, or they post a trail cam photo and say, "Hey, do you know these folks? Um, they're trespassing." You'll get so many comments from people that are like, "Oh, you're so worried about, God forbid, somebody go for a walk in the woods." There's plenty of places to go for a walk. You don't have to do it on private property that you don't have permission to do it on. If you want to go for a walk out there, go ask. If they say yes, there you go. If they say no, respect that. That's private property. You know, I look at my property. I've had a few different instances of trespassers. Um, and I have put posts out with pictures from trail cam saying, "Hey, if you know these people, please let them know that they're trespassing on private land." And people will be like, "Oh, it's just kids out being kids." I don't care. Respect other people's property. Between property taxes, the amount of money paid for the property, the amount of hours and sweat and blood and money that I dump into the property to put in access, to put in food, to do habitat improvement. I don't do that so that people can just come walking through there whenever they want. Sightseeing nature. Go someplace else. There's plenty of public land in the state of Michigan you can go sightseeing on. And also, if you are a non hunter, have a little bit of tact when it comes to hunting season as to where you're going. I know it's public land. I'm not saying you can't do it, but just be mindful that there's people that have a very short window of hunting season to go hunting. And the last thing we want is, somebody coming through with a dog that's not on a leash, that's wandering 150, 200 yards away from the people, just wandering around doing its own thing because they're out for a walk. Be mindful of that. I don't hunt right on the edges of hiking trails because I don't want hikers. I do it for a couple of reasons. One, I don't want hikers screwing up my hunt, but also hikers that are actually hiking on designated hiking trails probably don't want to see some dude, sitting there with a gun or a bow and arrow hunting right on the edge of a hiking trail. Have a little respect for each other. Let the hikers have their hiking areas. Hikers, stay on the designated trails and let the hunters have the other areas. Just show a little respect towards one another as outdoorsmen in general. We all love the outdoors. We all do it for different reasons. Most importantly, out of all of that, if you're hunting public land, take care of it. Clean freaking messes up. Don't make messes to begin with. Don't leave stands out there for years and years and years. Take care of it. Respect it. Clean it up. And respect private land. If it's not yours, either get permission to be on it or stay off of it. It's that simple. That's much good. So let's see. Let's see if we get any comments on this one. Let's see if I have any listeners after this episode airs. Again, these are all my opinions. I'm entitled to mine. You're entitled to yours. If you don't agree with it, if you don't agree with any of my takes, it's not going to offend me if you tell me you don't agree with it. Be respectful about it. I will be respectful with anybody. I will have a respectful conversation to argue my points. And I encourage them to have a respectful conversation back with me, arguing their points. That's how we come to, somebody could change my mind on baiting, for example. If somebody can show me, you know, good science behind why we don't allow it, I'm not so hard ass that I'm not going to change my mind. Same thing with many other regulations. This is just somebody with a lot of years of experience in seeing so many changes of hunting. We're always going from one extreme to the next is probably my biggest issue when it comes to how we manage, particularly for whitetail deer in the state of Michigan. When I was, 12, 13 years old, on 10 acres of 10 acres of property, I could sit there on an October day and I could have 20, 30 deer come through heading in one direction. Let's say 70% of them were different deer. I'm sure some of them, made a loop around me and came back through again. But, for the most part, I'm seeing different unique groups. I'm seeing a doe with two fawns. I'm seeing a doe with triplets. I'm seeing a 3 point, an 8 point, et cetera, et cetera. That was back in the early 90s, mid 90s. Then let's fast forward to like 2002. I don't know. I'm just throwing numbers out there. I'd be lucky to see 2 deer on that same 10 acres. And we went from, you know, you basically had to donate your liver to get a doe tag, and we had a ton of deer, to it became a free for all, and people were just whacking everything. And next thing you know, you go from one extreme of seeing 25, 30 deer on 10 acres to you're lucky to see two, because there's no there's no consistency, there's no thought process going into this stuff. It's, oh, we got too many deer, kill them all. Oh, we don't have any more deer, stop killing them completely. Think about the management processes and don't just think about it right now. Think about what it's going to do and how it's going to affect things 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. Um, Youth season. I'm not against the youth season. I think it's awesome to get kids out there, get them involved in the outdoors. I wish there was a little bit more of a thought process that went into it. I don't know how to word this because, again, I'm not against a youth season, but we don't need to give everybody instant gratification all the time. Some things that are worthwhile are worth waiting for and they're worth working for. And to just give it up to them like that because we want to make it easy for them, that doesn't mean that because you give it to them easy, they're going to stay interested in it. But if you let them get close and they taste failure, it might make them want it more, and it might create a lifelong hunter out of somebody versus taking an 8-year-old out and he shoots a buck like one of these on the wall the first time he goes out in the woods, and he's like, oh, cool, been there, done that. Is he still gonna stay interested? Some will, some won't. I've talked about this previously, and I liken it to like a musician or an artist. Um, I truly feel like you're kind of either born with that hunter DNA encoded in you, or you're not. Just like a great guitar player, they're born with that passion and that love for music, and it's that passion that drives them to become a fantastic guitar player or an artist. It's the same thing with hunting. If somebody picks up a guitar and riffs out an awesome track the first time they try, it's like, oh, that was easy. And they want to find something that's maybe a little more difficult to satiate that urge. But it's not easy to learn how to be an amazing guitar player. You got to work at it. It's the blisters, it's the cramps in your fingers, it's all that drives you to want to get better and better. And it's the same with hunting. And this will be my last thing I talk about before I shut it down for this episode. But the reason I think about that, and this really resonated with me, I saw a guy, and again, it's not to throw shade or anything, but somebody posted a picture of a 4-year-old boy with his first deer kill. Awesome. I think it's wild that a 4-year-old is hunting deer. I mean, at 4 years old, I think you should be shooting, the old school cork gun with the rope on it. And then maybe 6, 7 years old, you're graduating to a BB gun, um, and kind of going through the process, small game, so on and so forth. But it is what it is. What really stuck out to me is the way that the post was written. The guy literally says, "My 4-year-old son finally got it done. Finally got it done." He's 4 years old. What do you mean he finally got it done? That to me is just bizarre. 4 years old, finally got it done. Well, I know a lot of people that have been grinding at it for a lot of years, and when they finally get it done, they finally get it done. But at 4 years old, he doesn't even comprehend what he just got done. So, um, just food for thought. I'll leave it at that. Um, well, enjoy your time in the woods. Be safe, be smart, be ethical, be respectful. Wear your harnesses. Straight arrows, soon to be straight bullets. This is Wild Spirits Outdoors. Take care.
Thanks for tuning in to Wild Spirits Outdoors. We appreciate you joining us on this journey. Don't forget to like, follow, and share wherever you get your podcasts. It helps us grow the tribe and keep on chasing the wild. Stay connected with us on Facebook and Instagram at Wild Spirits Outdoors, and also on YouTube at Wild Spirits Pod. You can also head over to www.wildspiritsoutdoors.com for more content. Until next time, chase the wild, feel the spirit.